Clerk of the Pan-African Parliament, Advocate Zwelethu Madasa, has challenged office bearers of different structures of governance to educate people on the ground about what they stand for. He says it is rather disheartening that one too many citizens appear uninformed about basic organs of the African Union like the PEP. The Pan-African Parliament is currently sitting in Midrand, Johannesburg for committee and budget sessions. We spoke to him earlier and asked him to begin by outlining their mandate.
The Pan-African Parliament is an organ, is a body of the African Union. It was established exactly when the OAU, the former Organization of African Unity, OAU, was being transformed
to become present-day African Union.
Around 2000, to become the African Union. Remember, the mandate of the OAU was political liberation. So member states in Africa came together to fight for political liberation. So after South Africa got a breakthrough in 1994, it was then felt by the OAU that they need to refocus the organization to deal with current issues. The current issues which are economic independence, economic emancipation, economic development. So they then sat down to discuss what kind of institutions should be established and what kind of organization should Africa have post-OAU, post-South African independence. It was then decided to transform the OAU to the African Union. So when the African Union therefore was established, you remember it was launched here in South Africa, one of the organs that we agreed that should be established was the Pan-African Parliament, precisely to make sure that the African Union, unlike the OAU, which was an organization of states fighting for independence, that now if you are going to fight people's war of poverty, you need the people themselves to get involved institutionally. So the PAP was established as a platform,
as an institutional level
for the people to have a voice
within the AU.
Within the AU.
How involved are people on the ground within structures like the Pan-African Parliament? Do people know what the PAP stands for? Are people aware that the PAP is meeting in Midrand as we speak, in your opinion?
Exactly, that's the challenge we are having. Institutionally, by design, they should be involved. The framework, the legal framework, the political framework is there. Our job, our duty as functionaries in this institution is to now make this institution functional, to do that which they were created to do. So I get your point, and you are right in your question. To what extent? Of course, by some degree, but I suppose very, very little degree. The reason for that is that the very mother body, the African Union, is still not well known among the African people. So its children, so to speak, the organs, like the Pan-African Parliament, are suffering the same fate of the parent,
as the
parent
body,
who is not well known. But nonetheless, we're doing our best as a collective, organs of the AU, to make sure steadily and incrementally and gradually that the people get more involved. I suppose even our discussion is a very important contribution to the process of the Africans knowing that they have this institution, knowing that this institution is supposed to represent all their concerns in their member states and around the continent. Speak for them, not to speak for governments or executive, but speak for the people, directly their issues. And that's what we are about.
I think it would be correct to argue that the media can play a pivotal role in bringing understanding between the two. But what other stakeholders can be brought on board to bring both the AU and its structures that have to interact with people together, especially to be understood by people on the ground? Do you think that civic organizations can play a role? Do you think different political organizations across the continent can play a role?
As a matter of fact, the protocol established in the Pan-African Parliament states that the Parliament is a platform for the voices of the people and their civil society organizations. So this Pan-African Parliament does not belong to members of Parliament only. It belongs to media, it belongs to the intellectuals, it belongs to political parties, It belongs to civil society organizations of all kinds, churches, religious institutions, faith organizations. It belongs to everybody. It belongs to students. It belongs to women organizations, youth. It belongs to church associations. It belongs to all Africans in all their formations. So really what we need to do as a Pan-African Parliament, not just allow all these people, which we should, to come and voice their concerns, but we need to strategically also work to build what I would call the founders of the OAU. They called it an African progressive movement, a movement for change, grassroots movement for change, as represented by these various stakeholders you have mentioned. We need to facilitate that so that intellectuals in Africa, in South Africa, everywhere, know that here is the platform. Whatever we want to articulate that is developmental, that is for the continent, we have the Pan-African Parliament as an ally. Youth movements need to know in South Africa and all over the continent that if we need to speak, if we need to convene a youth parliament, the Pan-African Parliament is available for that. The old people, the disabled, they need to know that we have a Pan-African Parliament as our voice. The victims of war
need to know of the
women and
existence
children
of these structures.
Need to know that the Pan-African Parliament, if our governments are not speaking to us, can speak for us. The people who are victims of regimes that are not adhering to AU policies for democracy, good governance, and so on, that are not changing, dictatorship, and so on. Those citizens in those countries need to know that we have a parliament, and we can approach it, and it will not duck and dive, and it will address our issues. For that to happen, you need a certain caliber of leadership, I would argue. In the Pan-African Parliament itself, the members that come to the Pan-African Parliament, the leadership that is elected to positions, they need to embrace these issues. They need to be passionate about representing their people. They need to see themselves as agents of change, not seeking position for selfish ambitions. So there are those challenges, but properly construed, the Pan-African Parliament is a powerful platform to drive change in the continent.
But are there any processes that exist within the Pan-African Parliament as we speak that seek to bring people on board to work harmoniously with the Pan-African Parliament itself as a structure? We
already do that in a humble way, commensurate to the resources that we have. What we do, we have 4 sessions a year. 2 of them are committee sessions. They take place in March and in August. And then we have ordinary sessions that take place in May and in October. During the committee session, the 10 thematic committees that we have, which mirror the departments of the African Union, thematically, you know, security, trade, and so on. Like the committees we have in National Parliament, we have the same arrangement. Those standing committees, they come and meet and discuss their own programs, because the Parliament is really driven by committee work. So they come together and deal with policy issues as pertain to trade, for example, or social affairs. They deal with those issues and drive the work of the Parliament through the committees. Our committee system is open to the public, so it's absolutely not restricted. So people can attend. We do invite institutions, academic institutions, research institutions. They always come and present. International security studies, those kind of organizations and others, they come and they work with the Pan-African Parliament. The ordinary session, that's where we have plenary meetings. There we debate various topics, topical issues of the continent, and again, we open up. We invite heads of states. All our sessions generally have heads of state to open them, to show, because we want them to come and endorse and show interest and support for the Pan-African Parliament. And we divide various topics that are proposed by the members.
If you are to touch on thematic issues, and don't you find yourself having to tread on the sovereignty of certain states, and don't you find yourself haggling with different politicians on the issues that you discuss vis-a-vis the issues that you raise?
Of course, politics is always a sensitive topic. It's about power, it's about development, it's about sometimes, wrongly so, self-interest. So when you deal with politics, you're always treading on very dangerous ground. So, but the issue is the Pan-African Parliament, as I was saying earlier on, needs to have the type of leadership that is determined to drive change, that will interpret the legal instruments, the constitution of the Pan-African Parliament, and use them to drive that change without fear, with courage and bravery. That's what is required, to speak out on issues that are affecting the people. The issue is we must not look at what governments will say. We must be worried what people will say.
The agenda that the people expect you
We must
to
be
push.
worried what people will say if we are not talking. Not what will government say to what we are saying.
It's been a pleasure.
That's the issue.
It's been a pleasure having you.
Yes.
Unfortunately, we have run out of time. Thank you for joining us here on Channel 404.
Thank you very much.